Hello, this is Rufus Clan of the Grey Wolf, and welcome to our second commentary track for 16-bit Gems. Okay, yeah, EarthBound, in case you couldn't tell, is one of my favorite games of all time. I'd probably put it number 3 in my list of favorite 16-bit games, with Final Fantasy VI, or 3, whatever, as number 1, and Chrono Trigger's number 2. But there's very, very little separation between those 3 games. They're all very good, and I love each of them for very different reasons. So even though I say it's my third favorite 16-bit game, I really, really love this game. It's just amazing. I'd put it in my top 10 games ever, for me, personally. So I knew that I had to do a review for this game, for 16-bit Gems, but I wanted to wait. I didn't want to just start off with that because I knew as the series progressed, I'd hopefully get better at presenting and all this other stuff. Quality would improve, so I didn't want to, start out the gate and just blow the wad right at the beginning. So I decided to wait until the 10th review because that seemed like a pretty good round number to do that with. So, and let's see, I was talking to Enigma from Extreme Network Online, extremenetworkonline.com for all of you who haven't gone there yet, about a month ago, and he was talking about, the 15th anniversary of EarthBound release in North America is coming up. What are you going to do for that? And I was like, haven't I done enough already? But I guess not. So I figured, hey, wait, a commentary. So this will work pretty well. This outfit. This outfit was kind of nice from fangamer.net. And that burger was nice too. Oh man, Five Guys Burgers and Fries is awesome. But anyway, I'm getting sidetracked here. I waited until the 10th review to do EarthBound. This took me a very long time to put all this information together and find it and research. Normally, a 16-bit gem will take around 2 weeks from beginning till end, if I don't have any major distractions going on, from writing to the completed edited product. Usually that's about a week of writing and going over that and so forth, then another week for shooting and editing and all that. This took about a month of writing and a little over a week of shooting, about 2 weeks of shooting and editing and so forth. Basically my whole month of December went to this thing. December 2009. So, yeah, I definitely put a lot of effort into this. At first, I was like, oh, okay, this will be like a nice 15-minute, maybe 20-minute review. And it kept growing and growing and growing. And I was like, I don't want to cut any of this. And it wound up being like 33 minutes long, So, 3 big long videos on YouTube. Sure, why not? I figured instead of leaving anything else, I do want this to be a definitive history of the EarthBound series. I did not want to cut anything. So I didn't, Something else that kind of sets this apart from the previous 9 16-bit gems is that Daniel Commodore was basically my co-writer. If you have seen my commentary for 16-bit Gems 1, Illusion of Gaia, I really need a lot of help getting the snark out of my tone and basically trying to say why these games are worth a shot, 15 to 20 years later for people today who may have missed them. And he was very, very helpful in all that. However, since this whole process of going on in December, and a lot of stuff happens in December, like going home, visiting with family, he wasn't able to really go over and edit what I had originally written. So he didn't have the time for that. So I was just like, well, heck with it. I'll just run. So basically from this point forward, I was the sole writer of 16-bit Gems. So maybe there's a drop in quality that you know of from that point on. But it was from this point that I felt confident enough that I could do it myself. And also it freed up Commodore to do other things. He edits our Echo Screen podcasts and helps me with the painful memories. All this in front of, on top of a normal job and me as well. So, that's a nice break here. This commercial, I have to say, after playing with this and editing and so forth, it took me about 50 times before I realized that is not an atom bomb going off. That's like Mount Itoy, I would assume, with exploding robots and so forth at the top. I kind of thought it was weird that a Japanese commercial would just throw an atom bomb in it, but I guess I was just seeing things. So that's just a little weird thing there. Anyway, right. So this took forever to get all the information down, get all the pictures, and I read through a lot of interviews. A lot of interviews were very helpful in getting some of the background information, especially on Mother 3 and Mother, because Shigesato Itoi has done a lot of, that's disturbing, has done a lot of great interviews on his, I guess his mantra, his thinking behind the series.
I'm sorry, moot point.
I really want to know what that picture is from.
Anyway, back in the land of eagles and apple
pie. And I love that quote. Anyway, we will kill you on your sleep on Christmas. Better watch out.
So they began the arduous process.
So as I was saying a little bit earlier,
Nintendo Power released the West's
kind of to expand on what I was saying in 16-Bit Gems 1.
Dated November, December 1990.
Definitely, the angry video game nerd was like the godfather of all of these reviews. This whole style of reviewing. I wanted to get away from that a little bit. A few things that he does. I do love him. No disrespect. I did want to get a little bit away from that in what I do for a few in a few ways. One, obviously, not angry, more happy. Or not sorry, happy, but just review good games. But also, I noticed that he started, as he went along, he started to put more skits in. Like half of the review would be him battling Super Mecha Death Christ or something like that. And I was like, I mean, hey, this is some silliness, fine, but I was looking for a video game review. So I personally didn't like that as much. So I try to cut down on skits in the 16-Bit Gems. To me, that's what the Painful Memories in Gaming is for. That's a pure skit. But in case you couldn't tell, my whole formula for a 16-bit gem, which you really should be able to tell by now if you've seen many of these, is intro, and then a history, which takes up a third to a half of the review, and then the actual review, which takes up the rest. Because I love it, I personally love it, when people give some background on what they're talking about.
EarthBound schedule and marketing got shoved.
So I figured, try and be informative and maybe teach people something they didn't know would be a nice kind of niche for me to try and fill. The other part, which is actually reviewing good games, is something that I also thought that I was treading new ground on, but the Happy Video Game Nerd had done that beforehand. As I said, I didn't realize that until about 6 episodes in of my own on 16-Bit Gems, but I really do like the Happy Video Game Nerd. He's expanded into his own style. He started as a direct opposite of the Angry Video Game Nerd, kind of almost like a parody. But then he expanded into his own style, which I really like. I've gone back and I've looked at his stuff, and I'm avoiding stuff that he's done. Which is a shame because I really wanted to do Wild Guns, but damn it, he already tackled that. But the one thing I could not avoid was EarthBound. I love this game too much to just say, okay, well, I can't do that. So what I did instead was I just didn't watch it. I knew that he did an EarthBound review before I did, and so I just didn't watch it. Did all this, edited it, released, and then I watched it, and I really enjoyed it. We went over a lot of the same points, which just makes sense, but he has a different way of going about it. This episode, number 10, 16-Bit Gems 10, is more of a documentary, kind of the whole series, and then 11 is the review. And he did more of he did a lot of the history, and kind of avoided a direct review because he didn't want to spoil anything, which I can totally appreciate. But if you have not seen it, I'm sure most of you have, you need to check it out. It's really great. In fact, check out most of his stuff. Check out all of his stuff. My personal favorite is his Nightshade review. I think that's his funniest work. But anyway, Happy Video Game Nerd, there you go. Back to this review instead of the background. So,
Work was so slow that
I
Nintendo himself
first
felt the project was going to fail at some point.
discovered EarthBound.
But
I honestly
it was finally
did
released in
read
Japan
that
with much critical and popular
Nintendo Power,
acclaim in
we was just going back a little bit
1984
while
on a
ago,
whopping
that
24
Nintendo Power that was
megabit
talking about EarthBound
For
on the
comparison,
NES,
most other Super Nintendo
for,
games were
Mother.
released with only 8 megabits.
I actually read that when it was in Nintendo Power, and I was like, oh, this sounds like a great idea, That's when Nintendo Powers, I would, like, wait for them with bated breath, bated breath every single month, and I would read them cover to cover, so nothing really escaped my eye. But, and then Mother, EarthBound, dropped off the radar. Never heard of it again, until the sequel here, Mother 2, EarthBound, again, was released in America in '95, and it got some features in Nintendo Power. And once again, I was as a young teenager, was I even a teenager then? As a preteen, in America, living in suburbish area. This is really a gripping concept, to have a young boy who uses psychic powers to save the world, but he has to deal with money and ATMs and aliens and the police, Okay, except for the aliens, it's stuff that you normally have to deal with. He bats with his weapon's a baseball bat. I mean, how is this not a gripping tale to an RPG-loving little young kid? And yes, I love RPGs. I really got hooked on Final Fantasy.
Excited about this quirky game from an unknown developer that was unlike anything we'd ever seen.
On the Super Nintendo, but I was first introduced really with the Nintendo Power giveaway of Dragon Warrior back in the 80s. That was my first real RPG, and I really enjoyed that. So, yes, EarthBound definitely piqued my interest. I was waiting for that to be released, and I picked it up on the very first day. Drove the 25 miles to Babbage's, which was really the closest game store, in order to pick it up. Played the hell out of it. I can't think of how many times I finished this game. And then I tried to spread the word, because a lot of the other kids, my friends at school, hadn't played it, hadn't heard of it, whatever. And I was just like, oh god, this is the greatest game ever. Here, I'll let you borrow it just so you can play it. And some of them played it and they liked it. One of them borrowed it, moved away, and I didn't have it anymore, and that made me very sad. So then I had to buy it again, which was not cheap. For a kid with a paper route. So yeah, what I have right now, I have a copy of the game. I have a copy of the player's guide. I'm sure I have a box somewhere, but that has been lost. If I could have the whole set. There's the player's guide. I'm really glad I at least have the player's guide, because this is one of my favorite guides ever to a game. I mean, so much care was taken in this thing. I was amazed. Now this is something I could just take to the bathroom and read. For a long time, for as long as necessary. But that friend eventually moved back and gave me my game back, so I actually have 2 copies of EarthBound floating around somewhere. But anyway, that's how much I love this game. There you go. And there you go. Final Fantasy VI was really
much on EarthBound being worth it.
Final Fantasy VI.
Not many kids are going to want to.
That came out before this, I think. But regardless, that was more of a masterpiece, of RPG gaming. Final Fantasy VI. EarthBound is a lot of fun. It tells a heartwarming story, but and the music is very diverse, as opposed to 6. 6 is, the music from Final Fantasy VI is very epic, if you know what I mean, and very well orchestrated, especially for a 16-bit console. But the breadth and depth, the width and breadth and depth of music in EarthBound is massive. I mean, you have the orchestration of Annette's theme song. You have the Runaway Five with their kind of jazzy tunes. You have kind of like electronica in some of these alien bases.
Nintendo of America
you have kind of like a Rhapsody in Bluish theme going on in Fourside. There's a lot of polish that goes into the EarthBound series, and especially EarthBound Mother 2, that that I very much, as a young band nerd, appreciated.
Was to star a whole new cast of characters.
So when I heard that Mother 3,